Hey gang, I'm in the course of my annual hiatus from boat building each summer when I travel with my family. Um, and funnily enough, or I'm really excited to say that over the preceding 6 weeks, basically through May and into early June, I was just rocking and rolling, working at breakneck speed, in part because I had a good friend who came down to visit and help me on the boat. Well, we're blessed with a really nice week of weather here, first week in June. And I'm also fortunate that a good buddy of mine, basically friend since sixth grade, who lives in Boston, came down to visit for a week, more or less to help work on the boat. We've advanced the finish of the aft locker and deck and bulkhead. So as a result, I'll tell and show you a little of that work. But in fact, we did so much that I'm going to break it into three little chunks. Two parts on what we did with the boat in May and early June. And then also, I had 2 weeks of sail training at the end of June in the UK. In this segment, I'll tell you about kind of the lodging needs and some of the work that I started on with my friend Doug. All right, the deck structure is mostly in place, and so now it's time to move on to the lodging needs. This is a little bit more challenging, first because it's got curves, it works at a couple different levels, and also there's not much information in the plans or in Maynard Bray's book about it. Bob Emser, thank you, devised a process to build these, so I'm roughly gonna follow that. But on the Herreshoff, the Nettle plans, for example, in the Mystic Seaport collections actually do not have this kind of lodging need. They just have a small kind of oblique deck beam for support. But let's give it a shot, see how this goes. I've made a kind of rough template basically from some scrap, and for right now that's all I have. I just basically drew this on here and I'm gonna cut it out, miss a couple of knots, and then I've got to start working it. This was a first failed attempt at the diagonal braces or lodging knees that will support the coaming and define the cockpit. This is left over. I used it kind of as a template for the second improved one, but I want to get some use out of it. Try to use my scraps and offcuts and so forth. So here, these are going to be some of the braces on the bulkhead and the fore bulkhead. All right, here I am back to cutting out patterns from white oak, which I haven't done in quite some time, basically since the beginning of the project. But I've got the tiller and I got the two diagonal supports. So I guess you could call them maybe lodging knees, but they're basically supports for the coaming and the cockpit edge. All right, so I've made some cuts to kind of separate out these three templates, or three patterns, I always call them templates, to separate these out, but I've got to kind of like connect them. I've done as much as I can safely do with the circular saw.
All right, there's the other lodging knee. All right, here's my second attempt at this lodging knee. I've got this roughly cut from the white oak. There's a rivet that it hits. This is gonna sit right up against that. This is here. So I've basically just got to get the line where the coaming is gonna sit. So I've got to trim this out here.
All right, we've got one of the diagonal braces, diagonal supports, lodging knees, whatever you call it. I am stressing this bandsaw to its limit to see if I can get close to this curve. I just affixed the lodging knees, or the diagonal supports that go up against this deck beam slash bulkhead beam. I did this on port and starboard sides, and so might have a little bit of touch up, but those are basically ready to go, and I'm pleased about that. It was a little bit challenging. I'm not sure I've got the perfect curve yet, but with a little bit of touch up, I'm sure it'll be fine. And these now, like, that beam is very solid, and so I have no worries about that deck structure. That's gonna be just fine.